Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for a very interesting chat on a very important topic. My name is Ellen Odendaal. I'm a chartered accountant from Cape Town, South Africa, and this morning we're going to talk about conflict and conflict resolution. And I would like to introduce a friend of mine. We were colleagues back in 1997. Yes, the previous millennium. We were colleagues in Ceres, a small town in the Western Cape. We were doing our articles together, and Karen and I subsequently became great friends. And I'm going to ask her to introduce herself.
Thank you so much for the question, Ellen, and for the short introduction. I'm Karen Scumbi. I'm South African. I'm a chartered accountant, certified auditor of South Africa. I am a certified coach, ICF ACC designation, and I have 25 years of corporate experience working for PwC, DHL, the biggest logistics company, as well as an American company called Crawford & Company that's in the insurance sector. What we're going to talk about today is the importance of conflict resolution, my own experience with conflict resolution, the skills that I believe is important for us to be able to navigate and deal with conflicts and turn conflicts from into collaboration, especially in the work environment, and then some top tips. I hope you enjoy the conversation.
Okay, Karen, let's kick it off. Why do you think conflict resolution is such an important topic? Why is it an important topic for you?
Yeah.
Or in general?
Wow, Ellen, yeah, it's really, really profound. I'll start with a little bit of a story. Actually, when I was a young leader, I found myself that I was this kind of leader that didn't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
I just wanted to achieve status quo. And I believe it had to do also with my level of, where I was in my life. But certainly at a point, I just realized I wasn't living fully by not engaging in conflicts. And I got hold of a book by Susan David. She's a South African author. And this book is called Emotional Agility. And by reading that book, I really educated myself. I saw really how I was handling conflict by actually suppressing my feelings. I bottled it up. But what happened then was that I was exploding for nothing because of the suppressed feelings. So Ellen, a little bit of a story for an introduction, but it really helped me to understand how important it is to engage in conflict or in things that matter, that's important for you. That's my introduction.
Yeah. I actually, in preparation for this talk, I also reached out to previous colleagues of mine where I found myself in conflict situations. And by speaking with them, I actually realized that a lot of the conflict is started by not showing up as with an open heart, first of all. In other words, going into a conversation or into a relationship, protecting yourself, that can actually lead to conflict in the long run. And not interrogating your own feelings, not asking yourself why you are feeling certain feelings. You either suppress them or you just follow someone else's lead, not being authentically you. Those two things for me, really in my case, in my history, if I look back on my history, led to a lot of conflict in the long run.
That is so interesting and profound, Ellen. Wow.
Yeah, so how do you know, Karen, that you are finding yourself in a conflict situation?
Funny that you should
Is it
ask.
always is it always so easy to realize that this is a conflict situation?
Ellen, I would describe it for me at least, and I believe it could be, we could probably, if we speak to many people, I believe it will be similar, but at least for me, what starts to happen for me is that there's something that happens in my body. It's a physiological impact. So I start to feel my heart beating faster and my
Yeah.
breath getting more shallow. So it's for me, I realize I'm in a conflict situation the moment that I am picking up those signals in my body. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's the same for me. I mean, I will immediately, it's as if there's a short circuit in my brain. That's number one. I immediately lose my ability to speak for an instant. And I will definitely also feel the normal heart rate increasing, the fight or flight, typical
Mode.
fight or flight responses. Your breath shortening, your heartbeat going up. Um, and then depending on who the person is that you're having a conflict with, either getting ready to fight or
Yeah.
getting ready to disappear.
And
Um,
yeah,
or
and
just
yeah.
go under the desk, hide from the person under your desk. That's also that's flight, no? That's running away from the conflict situation.
Yeah, so what you're just describing, I think it's important for us just to pause here and say, I think for many of us, there will be different triggers. So what we're saying
Yes,
is there's different triggers, and then there's also our preferred way of dealing with it, right? So,
yes.
so in my case, I can honestly say it was more kind of like a silent treatment or avoidance, at least to start with.
Yeah,
Now,
for
now,
you is that.
now, now this has changed. How about yourself, Ellen?
Yeah, I must say that I think I've always been quite outspoken. And I think a portion of it, and I only realized it later in life, is that by finding myself in uncomfortable situations, I learned to hide inside a protective shell. So I actually, by having this shell around myself, like a little crab hiding in a seashell, I thought that I'm protecting myself, but you actually, when you are doing that, you are not protecting yourself. It's a fictitious protection. Um, you actually then come across as the person starting the conflict because you are not
Wow.
being authentically yourself. You are not appearing or not arriving in conversations with an open heart, with a soft layer, a soft outer shell. With you protect yourself by wanting to avoid conflict, but you actually end up causing conflict by
Wow.
arriving in a situation with this protective shell around yourself.
Ellen, that's profound. I love your metaphor of the hermit crab. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
same.
almost
And
like
then
you show up as a crab instead of the soft person that's actually and the big heart that I know you to be inside.
exactly, exactly. And for me, that sometimes creates more conflict. Not arriving as your authentic self creates conflict in relationships.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible, Ellen.
Yeah, and then of course, if you are in a relationship with someone, it's also to make sure that the other party, whether I'm not saying a romantic relationship necessarily, it could be a relationship at work, but it's also to make sure that that relationship is safe, in the sense of being there for each other, knowing the other person must know that you have his or her back, must know that you will accept whatever they say about you, um, before you enter into discussions or conflict situations.
Mm.
You must first establish a relationship. Yeah, in every situation, actually. First find common ground before you work with people, before you even attempt to do something together with the person next to you.
I couldn't agree more.
Build a
Ellen.
relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. What skills do you think you need for conflict resolution, Karen, in your experience?
Ellen, I
Can you
think,
give me maybe examples from
yeah,
your life, from your career, where
yes.
you found yourself and the skills that you needed? You mentioned this now, it's especially like when you talk about the skills.
You're on mute, Ellen.
Those physical reactions. Are you supposed to react on them? What are you supposed to do with the physical reactions before you actually resolve the conflict with words?
And Ellen, just for the recording, can you just repeat the full question? Then they can cut it for that portion.
Yeah, it's no jammer oor I'm sorry about this person who was phoning me on my phone.
Okay.
So the full question is, when you described, Karen, you described the physical reaction to being in a conflict situation. The your heart rate accelerates, your breathing becomes shallow and fast. You may even start sweating. So you have a physical response to a situation, and then you find yourself in a situation where you need to resolve the conflict that you're finding yourself in. So for me, there are two elements to it. Number one is dealing with the physical reaction. What do you
Yeah.
do with those reactions?
Yeah.
And then how would you go about resolving a conflict situation?
Thank you, Ellen. So I really, mindfulness has been a great friend, especially for conflict resolution. So when I do feel these symptoms in my body, or these, and it might be different for everyone, but once
Yeah.
I have the trigger, then I take a step back and I literally breathe. I just take a
Yeah.
few breaths. Depending on the situation, I might even, if it's really a difficult situation, I might even do a bit of a walk outside, but I wouldn't just do it in isolation. I would actually tell the person that I need to step out just to take some air, or I need to a comfort break, or whatever the case might be. That would give me
Yeah.
the opportunity, because that's one of the skills, by the way, that I'm mentioning or would like to mention, is emotional management. And if we don't take a step back, then we will highly likely react. And you see that all the time when you go shopping.
Yeah.
People are just getting so agitated with it. People at the till, that's not working fast enough, etc. People, that they just fly off the top, and say whatever they want. So the opportunity is to take a step back, to take a deep breath,
Yeah.
to regulate yourself, and then to choose how to respond. So that gives yourself some space, and it actually gives whatever is happening in that situation, it gives that situation time to breathe. Okay.
Yeah.
So once I feel, I believe, when you are in that space, you can just gather yourself and really ask yourself what is important about this situation. And especially in a work situation, we are aiming, I think all of us know already, I don't want to assume, but in a work situation, we're looking for win-win situations. And it's really important to listen very carefully to the person that's in front of you, not to try to work out the correct answer or your defense, but instead listen to understand, to be able to show that you understand where that person is coming from. We call it empathy, to really put yourself in the shoes of someone else, to be able to understand why there is a conflict, why is there a problem, and then really to work together, to also, as we just said, not to be passive aggressive, but actually to show up and to say how you feel about the situation and what you feel could be resolutions, and to work together to find a resolution or an answer, a kind of like a collaboration, right? That could work
Yeah.
for both parties.
Yeah. I also, in what you are saying, I'm also hearing that by acknowledging your own response and identifying your own emotions, what is it? What caused this? What caused my body to react? What is the emotion that I'm actually feeling? By identifying that emotion in yourself, you are also being kind to yourself. You are also showing empathy to yourself, which is equally important. It's as important to understand yourself as it is to understand the person sitting opposite you.
Absolutely,
And
Ellen.
yeah, I can maybe on that point also share that a psychiatrist once shared with me that if you find yourself in a situation where you're really now in a fight or flight situation, your body is showing all those typical physical responses. And as you said, Karen, if you remove yourself from the conversation, if you go and sit somewhere private, like in a bathroom or wherever, then really go and sit and physically tense your whole body from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. Tense all your muscles and then breathe and release that tension. And do it a couple of times. It will have the same effect on your body as running, as actually giving over to that fright or flight response. It will have the same effect on your body without maybe having to go for a walk or a run or whatever. It will have the same release for your body, and you will actually then let go of the physical tenseness in your muscles. You will
Yeah.
release that physical tension. So
Ellen, I
that's
love
also
that.
to remember if you find yourself in a situation like that, is that there are ways where you can help your own body to release tension.
And I couldn't help but think while you were talking, Ellen, that depending on your relationship with the person, you could actually do this together to say, let's just take a few deep breaths to actually land. And let's just, let's start over. What are we talking about here? What is really important for us, and see. Sometimes it might not be possible in certain situations, but I love what you're
Yes.
saying. I believe there is a place for actually doing it almost together.
Yeah, for sure. No, I never thought of that. But definitely, if both of you are feeling the same response, then it makes sense to do it together. It will actually deepen the relationship in the long run,
Yeah.
I would think. So, Karen, are there other skills that you want to add for conflict resolution?
Um,
Else that you
no,
can think of?
but I would just summarize it. Let me just summarize it. I believe there's a huge level of self-awareness. That's number
Yeah,
one.
that's number
So recognizing those triggers and the physical,
one.
how it manifests in your body physically. Secondly, I really believe in then how to address that physiological side is really
Yes,
like you said, step back, take a breath, and then to really engage, but through deep listening, really being
yeah,
curious and not defensive, and to really put yourself in someone else's shoes. For me, I believe that those would be the top 3 skills.
yeah, yeah. And obviously those skills also develop over time. We have to keep on reminding ourselves that when we were younger, we didn't have those skills.
Oh, Ellen, I'm so happy where I am today, I tell you.
Oh my word.
It was a long
Yeah,
journey. Takes time. It takes time.
for sure, for sure, for sure. Long and sometimes uphill journey. Not always, but
And there's
yeah,
a few valleys along the way as well.
yeah. Karen, you mentioned briefly some work situations where you encountered conflict. Would you like to share some of those experiences with us and how you eventually resolved the conflict?
Yes. So one-on-one conflict resolution is quite different. They could also be inter office. conflict situations. And I was faced with that kind of situation in my last role. So just to mention that sometimes it can be quite straightforward and you can recognize conflict, but in other circumstances, it might be a little bit more complex, and you really have to have a bit of like your feelers out to observe. And there might be other ways in which you become aware of it. But the one thing that's important is to really address it, because if you are aware of an underlying conflict in your team or teams, this is a recipe for disaster. So in this situation, what I realized was that even I was not equipped for the level of conflict and the complexity involved. And I actually had to raise my hand. I had to ask for help, and I had to get a male figure involved. And we had to go through a very democratic process where we identified spokesperson or spokespeople in specific teams, and they represented the teams. And then we had like a focus group, Ellen, to really address the level of conflict that was at the root of some of the let's say behaviors that we were seeing.
Yeah.
So just to suffice to say that you know, it's not easy, but sometimes you will have to say help, and you might have to escalate. And it's very important as a leader to know where your power and resolve ends and where you need help.
To realize up to what point would your own experience assist you, and where do you have to hand over to the next, you have to hand that baton over to the next person.
Correct,
to
Ellen.
take it further.
Yeah.
But I'm also hearing you in that scenario that you sketched for us, is that conflict is not necessarily you could find yourself in a conflict that you didn't create or you were never part of.
Yes.
Is that what I'm hearing you in that situation?
Yes,
because
Ellen.
it seems to me that there was a scenario that actually it played out, but you were not really part of it. You were just on the receiving end of the scenario.
Yes, Ellen. Yeah. So I think it's good to have an awareness around that, and to not take it personal, and to address it professionally, because it might not have anything to do with you. In fact, Ellen, I think you are just bringing up a very important topic, or skill, or maybe a mantra or something to work with, and to realize that nothing is personal at the end of the day. And so even in a conflict situation, it would be important to put on that jacket, so to speak, not maybe the hermit crab shell, but at least just protection, to know that however it comes across, at the root of conflict, you should realize that it's not personal, and that every person have their own ideas, and the conflict is highly likely, you know, it comes and it's triggered in yourself, but it is not something to take personal.
Yeah, what you're actually reminding me of now is that old saying that I can only control my own action. I can't control your reaction.
Thank you, Ellen. That's profound.
Yes, but by having said that, if I see your reaction, this is now where maturity comes in. When I see your reaction and it's not the reaction that I would have expected, or it's a negative reaction, and I don't want to leave you sitting with that negative reaction, it's then also to have the courage to enter into a conversation to try and find out what caused this reaction. Is there something that we need to talk about? Is there something that I need to do differently? Is there maybe more understanding needed in the situation? Can we understand each other's positions better? In other words, don't leave the person sitting with that negative reaction.
Ellen, that's absolutely great, great contribution. And actually, it made me think of something. Um, there's always these difficult people. I don't know, maybe you are a difficult person, Ellen. Who
I
knows?
am.
Ah,
I am,
so
but I'm also not.
so so
I'm
so
actually quite simple.
conflict, as we said, maybe we said, conflict is inevitable, even if we want to avoid it, right? But it is vital for deepening relationships. So I actually, I came across an acronym that's called HEART, and it's easy to
Mm-hmm.
remember. And this is something to use. It's not a skill, but it is something like a mantra that you can write down for yourself and keep maybe on a post-it note next to you or close to you. And this is
Yeah,
how to deal with difficult people, and this can help with conflict resolution as well. So the H stands for humility, being
yeah,
humble, knowing that there are people that know more than us, than you. The second,
yes,
the E stands for empathy. So that
yeah,
would be how we approach, and I think we mentioned this enough so that people will understand that empathy is really a key tool. The A stands for authenticity. I believe you've
yep,
mentioned it several times, and I believe that is what's required, is really to be yourself and to know who you
yeah,
are when you are engaging with difficult people and in conflict. The fourth one, the R, stands for resourcefulness. And that's really the idea of finding a win-win situation and being
yeah,
creative while finding that. So we are all resourceful, I believe, yeah. And then the T, the T stands for being tough. And
yep,
really, it's really like when you are in conflict and you have to sometimes be assertive, and you really, if you believe you are getting there, sometimes it's important to push it through and to say, okay, guys, let's do it. Let's act on this. This is the resolution. We're gonna go for it. How do you like that, Ellen?
I like it. I will actually add something to the end of it. You can give it a letter,
Yeah,
but that is once you've decided. But once both parties have decided what to do about it, about what you're going to do to resolve this conflict, is to not deviate from that plan.
I love that.
And
To
I have
stay
an example.
steadfast.
Exactly. I actually, from my own life, you said now that maybe I'm a difficult person. Maybe I am. Um,
You are, Ellen.
but what I found, what works for me in conflict situations is that if the resolution is that we will deliberately choose to take whatever the other party says in a positive light. In other words, to really give the person the benefit of the doubt, then it's non-negotiable. Then you have to do that in all situations. You can't then deviate from the resolution that you decided on together. If it's a joint decision that this is how we will resolve this conflict, then both parties need to stick to the plan.
I love that, Ellen. That's how we know a plan better be practical, resourceful, and address all areas of concern.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it
yeah,
won't work.
for sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Ellen, I
yeah,
love
because
that.
if one of the parties feel that they have to give more than the other party, then the resolution is not going to work.
I love that. Ellen, we are actually over our time a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Let's then conclude. Just Karen, if you have any top tips on how to resolve conflict, you
Yes,
want that you still want to add.
yes, I would. And I hope this is helpful especially for young leaders. For me, in my experience, right, it's really very important to address a conflict immediately. And I don't mean
Mm.
there will always be other situations or ad hoc situations where you can't. But what I mean is it shouldn't simmer. So it is
Yeah.
of vital importance to address a conflict that you are aware of. That, in other words, I mean, you know what I mean. It's not like you're now in a conflict situation and and you're addressing it. It's actually something that you became aware of. Maybe it's a team member, maybe it's another team that you are in charge of, and you're aware of a conflict. So I'm saying it in that sense. So addressing conflicts immediately. Also to set time. So if you are, let's say you have an upcoming feedback session with someone about something that they didn't do correctly or that needs to be addressed, don't just jump on this poor person. Set a time and also have a neutral environment. Don't do it in the open office. Don't do it in the open office. Maybe do it in your own office or book a meeting room. But it's important for this whole, for the person to honor this person and also how they might respond, to give them the time to know there's going to be a discussion. It's going to be serious and they need to be prepared. If you can, by all means, let the person know what the discussion will be about, or that they can prepare themselves. The idea is not to catch someone off guard. Use facts, and use facts that you have observed. Don't use what someone else told you. No, that will never work in truly addressing something. Share your own feelings and talk from the heart. That's the authentic part, right? And share honestly and vulnerably. Listen. Control your emotions. I couldn't, repeat this more to make the point, but control your emotions is really important. As a leader, it is not our task to hit, our hand on the table or to vent our frustrations at our colleagues. There is no space for that in the professional environment. We have to be in control of our emotions, and we have to model that to our team as well. In a closed space, you are allowed to raise your voice, but that it has no space and place in a professional environment, and your team should certainly not get this example from you. Ellen, that's my top tips. I think the only last thing that I would share is education is key. Watch YouTube clips, read books, talk to people, perhaps join a group if you can, where you are talking about conflict resolution and other important topics in the work environment that a group setting might be conducive to for learning.
Yeah. All your examples are so great, Karen. I'm sure that if people only follow one of those examples or take time to follow one of your suggestions, they will really find that their relationships will deepen and they will get to a new understanding of the people around them and the people in their teams and in their life, and a new understanding of themselves as well, if they take time for introspection.
Oh, absolutely, Ellen. Thank you, Ellen.
So thank you so much, Karen. I really enjoyed our talk, and I really hope that people find the information that you shared from your heart so freely and so openly that they find it valuable. Thank you so much.
Ellen, and I also just want to thank you. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for the add-ons and your valuable input. I am absolutely sure that people will benefit from this.